Alright, so each of you should have a leaf that's infected with TMV in front of your desk. This is going to be the inoculum. What we're going to do is we're going to grind up this tissue, we're going to extract it with liquid, and then we're going to rub inoculate some plants. So we have here a mortar and pestle. The reason they're covered with tin foil or aluminum foil is because they were autoclaved. Autoclave is just a sterilization process in which we put these two, or anything, into pretty much a box that heats up and also puts a very high pressure to destroy the nucleic acid of anything that may be contaminated. So here today we're only trying to inoculate with just TMV, so that's the reason we have these on there. So you're going to open up this baggie and take out the leaf. Even just a section of the leaf is fine. You don't have to do a whole bunch because this virus replicates very quickly in a very high amount. Now, anything that you touch that has or anytime you touch this leaf, you'll have to change gloves because this virus is mechanically transmitted. So we got to be careful with what we have here to not contaminate absolutely everything. Now you guys should all have some squirt bottles at your table and a graduated cylinder. If you don't, that's fine. What you do is you squirt just a little bit of water in there. Take this out, try not to touch the end of it, and you're going to grind it. So the way you grind it is you put pressure and you move around in a circular motion. And you can put it on the table to get more force on it. You can keep squirting a little more water in there as needed. Now once you've got it ground up so that you have a lot of particles in there. Max, can the camera see that? Mm-hmm. Alright. You guys see that? You don't need to grind up the whole thing. A lot of it's not going to be able to be ground up because it's got a lot of those tough cells. Now take off all the bits and pieces that you can from that. And get as much of that particles out of there too, so that they're all floating in water. Next, you're going to get some cheesecloth, and we're going to filter out all the particles. So you'll have your beaker with your funnel in it. Take your cheesecloth and pour it through the cheesecloth without making a mess like I just did. Try not to get any particles in the solution. And that'll be your inoculum. So that's full of lots of TMV particles. Alright, so easy enough. Next part. You're each going to have, each table is going to have 4 plants. We actually don't have bean plants for all of you, so you'll have actually 3 plants each. Unfortunately, the beans did not grow. We've got 2 varieties of tobacco. One is susceptible to TMV, the other is not. And then we've also got your tomato plants. You guys will be labeling each plant with your name on it. And you're going to take a piece of tape and wrap it around the leaf that you will inoculate. I recommend you inoculate younger leaves. The younger the leaf is, the easier it is to rub inoculate and also to get the infection process started, because the leaf is still growing, so it's still producing a lot of messenger RNA and a lot of other a lot of molecules molecule that the virus needs for growth. We have here carborundum. Make sure you stir it a bit. You can see there's lots of particles in there. The carborundum, again, is just a bunch of tiny little particles that are very jagged. And so, what we're going to do, you can put either paper towels or something. Find a young looking leaf, put the tape around it so you know which one's going to be the inoculated one. Take carborundum. Sometimes the squirt bottle gets, it'll get clogged up with the carborundum, so if you cannot squirt it, use one of these dishes and just put a little bit of carborundum in here. We're going to rub the carborundum on it. Now when you rub, it has to be very, very gently, because simply putting these particles on the plant, on the leaf, is enough to cause the abrasions. You're not going to put any pressure downwards, you're just going to rub it over. So like practice on the back of your hand or something. Don't push down, just barely rub on top. So I'm going to spray this leaf here. You can see this is completely clogged. So what I'm going to do, not contaminating that, pour a little bit of carborundum out. Just touching it with my finger. And just barely rubbing. I'm not even putting any pressure. Next, I'm going to change gloves. Now with this part, you can have some leeway. The traditional way for inoculating TMV on plants is with your finger, which is what I'm going to do here. Take your finger, dip it gently inside the inoculum. You don't need that much. Without making a mess everywhere, rub it again on the leaf. Or what you can do is you can also mix the carborundum with some of that inoculum inside this dish that we provide. That way you only have to rub once. Makes it faster. But again, try not to touch anything with the liquid once you have it on your gloves. So you guys are going to do that for three plants, excuse me, 2 tobacco plants and 1 tomato plant. Any questions on that? Pretty straightforward. Alright, Max, cut it so we can get to the next part. Alright, so each of you should have 6 plates with fungi, each one labeled something. And you'll have plates up here that you'll be transferring a plug from here onto a new plate. Now, fungi, if you recall, the ones that grow through mycelial growth, will grow radially or outside from, so grow similar to how you've seen bacteria growing. And if you look at the very edge of the colonies here are where the fungi are actively growing. So when you take a plug from your plate, make sure you grab from that edge and not from like somewhere in the center, because the fungi in the center are usually not growing anymore. So let's show you how to do that. Again, this part is very important that you have sterile technique. So I'm going to be using a scalpel and some tweezers. And be very careful with them. I'm going to first heat sterilize them. And after you heat sterilize them, you make sure to let them cool down. Otherwise, you will kill whatever you're trying to pick up, and that's no good. Alright. So I'm going to take a plug of, you can see there's the black in the center and with a white outline. I'm going to try to take some of that white outline with a little bit of the black. So we're literally just going to cut the media, pick it up with the tweezers or with whatever you need to pick it up with, and then you're going to put it face down on top of the new media. Got it? And then make sure you label your plates as well with what's what.
So the fungi will be basically smushed?
Pretty much, yeah. We're going to be making a sandwich with the fungi. That's just so that the spores will be in contact with the new media so that they can start to grow. And it's pretty hard to mess up, so don't worry about it. These fungi are pretty good at growing. So the area that you have to pick up Think of it, I think the manual says about the size of an eraser tip or a pencil, right? So here I'm just cutting a tiny little piece. Just that big. Now, I'm holding it up just so you guys can see it. You know, obviously don't hold it up when you guys are doing it, but you can see it's very tiny, very tiny. I'm going to close this up, open up my new plate, and I'm going to put it face down onto the new plate in the center. And then you close it up, done. These, don't put them upside down because then the plug will fall off. But make sure you're doing this underneath the flame and that you don't contaminate anything. And then of course, once you're finished with it, flame sterilizer tools. Any questions? All right.